And then last but certainly not least, we have Team Flick the Wrist that collaborated with the Calderon family, which is Eric Sr., Candace, and Eric Jr. Team Flick the Wrist did a great job really enthusiastically and also quickly iterating on their prototype, all while keeping their end user in mind. Their client was actually able to come visit a couple times throughout the summer, and I really saw them use that client feedback to inform their design decisions that I'm excited for you to see now.
One in every 60,000 children are born with symbrachydactyly, which is a congenital condition in which the fingers and hand form abnormally. In its most severe form, known as paramelic symbrachydactyly, none of the fingers form properly, leaving them with mainly wrist movement. Eric Calderon Jr. is a 6-year-old local boy born with paramelic symbrachydactyly. He has readily adapted and is able to perform most of his everyday tasks without the use of an aiding device. More recently, he has developed a passion and enthusiasm for basketball. However, he finds that his growing skill set is somewhat limited and could be improved with the use of a prosthetic. My name is Shreya, this is Alex and JJ, and we're Team Flick the Wrist. Our goal this summer has been to create a basketball prosthetic hand for Eric Jr., specifically to help him shoot, dribble, pass, and catch the ball. Our problem space holds many special considerations due to its place at the unique intersection of both a kid-friendly and a basketball-oriented prosthetic. Most existing solutions are insufficient due to a failure in one of these two aspects. There are various commercially available models that are oriented towards basketball. However, these models aren't intended for children, nor are they easily resizable to keep up with the pace of rapid child growth. Furthermore, they don't look like a hand, which is something our client identified as of importance to them. There are also 3D printed enable models, and these models are intended for children and easily resizable due to their form factor. However, they aren't intended for the rigor of basketball, both in the shape of the hand and also the durability.
So in order to create a model which is both kid-friendly and basketball-oriented, our team came up with the following 6 design criteria as seen on the screen, with a primary focus on basketball maneuverings and durability. The starting point for our project was eNable's 3D printable kinetic hand. This model is very effective at grabbing items. However, it limits the user's ability to control and handle a basketball properly. In order to best fit Eric Jr.'s needs and our objectives, our team decided to make 4 key modifications. There you go. Which were reorienting the thumb, adding wrist support, extending the palm cover, and redesigning the gauntlet. So the first key modification our team worked on was reorienting the thumb. As you can tell from the picture, the thumb orientation on the original hand hinders the user's ability to properly contact a basketball. Therefore, our team decided to push the thumb backwards in order for the fingertips to properly contact the basketball, as seen on the second picture. The second key modification was the addition of wrist support. After testing, we noticed Eric Jr. could potentially injure his wrist if there was a high impact force that could bend his wrist backwards. Therefore, based on our analysis, we incorporated additional cushioning on the wrist hinges, as seen on the new model right there, to help improve the safety and the durability of our model.
Next, our modifications on the palm were in 2 key areas. One of these areas was in the way the cover attaches to the rest of the palm. In the original design, there were 12 metal screws, which we believe poses a safety risk to both our user and the other kids he'd be playing with. So we were inspired by stitching methods used in shoemaking to create a laced method of attaching the palm cover, as shown here. When we met with Eric, we noticed that his hand would slip out of the bottom of the device during wrist extension. To address this, we expanded the length of the palm cover down the gauntlet so that his wrist and upper forearm would be fully enclosed in the device and further secure it. The original gauntlet design needed to accommodate a grasping mechanism, which caused it to be bulky and ill-fitting to our user's arm. Our newly modified gauntlet solves these issues by increasing the overall length, as well as streamlining its shape to better conform to his arm. This brings me to the future of our project. We'd like to continue to resize and refabricate parts for Eric as he develops and he grows as a basketball player. We'd also like to create a detailed user manual so that the device can be self-maintained and repaired. Scoping out, we want to optimize our parts to fit a broader range of conditions, followed by an open source release of our files and documentation so that kids with similar needs and interests can benefit from our work this summer. As we close out our presentation, we'd like to show our appreciation for everyone who made our work possible this summer. Finally, our completed prosthetic is displayed here with all of our design changes indicated. We hope that the device can help add to Eric's quickly evolving and growing basketball skill set. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We are now open for any questions.
Did Eric Jr. try your prosthetic, and did he give you his acceptance of it, or did he have suggestions that you still need to follow on?
That's a great question. So we were able to meet with him several times, and we even went to see one of his Y League basketball games. And a lot of the design changes we made were directly based off of the feedback he gave us. And in our most recent visit, we gave him a pretty much complete model of our prosthetic. And the final piece of feedback we got was that a lot of the progress that needs to be made is just in him getting used to the device and adapting to the learning curve that's associated with. It's almost like if we were to have a third arm, you wouldn't really know what to do with it, or you wouldn't be used to it until you had some practice. But yeah, other than that, he's really enjoyed the shape and how it looks, so we're pretty happy with that.
How long did it take for you guys to assemble everything?
So after we have everything printed out, because it takes a decently long time. For example, with this hand, for our final prototype, we decided to use a nylon printer rather than the PLA to make it more durable and sturdy. So to print all those pieces, it took like 22 hours, like the fingers, the palm, and the gauntlet. And then you also have to print the hinges. But basically, like after you have everything printed out, I'd say it probably takes like 10, 15 minutes to put everything together, except for the silicone molds on the fingertips. Those, we used a process that takes like 30 minutes to curate. So basically, it takes around 15 minutes if you have all the pieces already printed and figured out, but yeah.
Can I handle the Infinity Stones? A joke. The second one, which parts are adjustable for other children to be able to use, or teenagers or adults?
So the whole hand, basically, you can rescale it. So with this one specifically, since we had Eric Jr. as our final target, we redesigned the gauntlet, kind of like I said, specifically to fit his arm. So we took specific measurements of his arm in order to account for the curvature and everything. So this one specifically is meant for Eric, but you can also, if you want it for like someone who's a little older, if they have like similar conditions, you can always just scale it up by a factor depending on how big they are. But that's kind of how we started. We basically started with the original one right there, and we printed out several models to see which scaling was fitted best for Eric. And that's basically kind of how we started. So it would just be the same way. You just have to scale it up or down depending on the size of the arm of the user.
And also, the insert, which goes inside of the hand, that helps if his hand is a little bit shorter or longer, you can alter that so that his hand doesn't slip all the way in. So that could be modified too, depending on the length of the user's arm.
How did you kind of weigh the factors of weight and durability and the speed of the ball coming towards the hands and whatnot?
Right. So weight wasn't too much of a concern for us just because it's 3D printed. So the entire thing is pretty much made out of plastic. So it's super light. And we actually had him rank how he thought that it was weight distributed, and he thought it was completely fine. As for durability, a lot of that came with we did some testing on how much strength the fingers could hold. So the original design includes these tensioners or strings that go through the fingers, and that was mainly to have the grasping mechanism so the hand could close. And so we did some testing to decide whether those were really necessary components, and we found that each individual finger could hold essentially up to like just under 20 pounds. And so we found that for a 40-pound boy, that would be enough for us.